Welcome everyone. This is another webinar of Mind the CRAIC, your online life hacks. We are discussing life improvement tools as based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard. And I am joined today, as it's Saturday, again by Devonta Cobb.
Hello. Ho ho ho.
Welcome. So you're dressed in Santa uniform.
Yeah, man. Just gotta get in the spirit, man.
Yeah, it kicks off for us the kind of Christmas feel that's happening in the center here, which is really good to see. Lots of decorations, lots of things happening. So we're going to talk about trust issues today. Before we get started on that topic, I just want to let you know I am live here in a Zoom chat, and if you are following along, you can give us a wave, give me a thumbs up, let me know that you're attentive and ready to go. We're also going out on other platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you're following along on those platforms, you can still engage with us, share a story, ask a question, that sort of thing, by putting it into the comment section, because we have a host following on those platforms. Her name is Sylvia, and she will relay anything that you've got question-wise to us so we can discuss some of those points. Okay, so trust.
It's a very big topic.
It is actually, and just to introduce a little bit further, I've got the book The Way to Happiness here, and this book is a non-religious, it was written by L. Ron Hubbard, but it's a non-religious code, you could say, or guide on how to live a happy life. And I've put that book there because it goes over different precepts or principles by which, if you follow them, you will find the way to happiness, or you will live a happier life. And one of the precepts in that relates to trust is...
Be worthy of trust.
Be worthy of trust. So this book serves as a guide for yourself, but it is also the sort of book that comes in a smaller little booklet, I guess you would say, that you can use to give to others. Because when people around you are following the way to happiness, then your life becomes happier itself. So that whole concept of being able to do well on your own is a little bit of a misnomer, because people around you affect your life. And if people around you are not doing well, then by that concept, then you won't be doing as well as you could be. So this book here does deal with the subject of trust, and you can use it by examining your own life and examining those around you in terms of the precepts and who follows them and who does not. So that's just a preface of why I've got that book presented today. Let's talk about trust.
All right.
Just to introduce then, we've got trust, real trust issues and imagined trust issues.
Yeah.
So real being something that you have evidence of a violation of trust or a betrayal, those sort of things.
Yeah.
What have you noticed people most try to, or how they most try to deal with real trust issues?
They try to give them the benefit of the doubt, give them second chances, third, fourth chances. Then after that, after a while, it's just like, okay, I really don't want to trust you with a lot of different things. So I could have trusted you with something really big, and you kind of, messed that up. Okay, cool, I go a little lower, you mess that up.
Right.
Okay, I trust you with, just be on time. Just make it here on time.
Something simple.
Or just be here at all. Just be there,
Right.
And you mess that one up. And it's just kind of like even in The Way to Happiness, it says people who are not able to be trusted are regarded like trash.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust this person, so why would I call on this person to do anything for me? Like, I don't know if they're going to pull through.
Right. What you just said, I touched on in a webinar yesterday where we were talking about relationships, and of course, when we're dealing with trust issues, we are looking at relationships, because do you trust another person? And I painted this sort of scenario of when you have a relationship, when it begins, it usually begins under positive sort of circumstances, positive experience, and there starts to add up a bank or a collection of positive experience. Now, the two people in that relationship don't usually get into questioning the usefulness or the trust within that relationship, the faith or otherwise the fidelity in that relationship, unless the bank of negative experience starts to build up.
Yeah.
And it can build up, I said, in two ways, and this is my theory totally, right? There can be lots of little transgressions, lots of little errors that all go together, late, forgot this, didn't get the milk, didn't buy this, forgot to call, didn't do this, didn't do this. And as that negative experience builds up and perhaps matches that positive experience, that's when we start to have trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be, sort of on the other side of that, big bank of positive experience, but then one big major violation of some sort against that relationship, which has the same effect of many, many, many small ones. It's just that it's such a big magnitude. And of course I was looking at, someone cheating on someone or having an affair, various things like that, right?
Yeah.
So we've got the positive experience and then we've got negative experience. And when the negative starts to encroach or outweigh that positive, then we've got trust issues.
Yeah.
So that would relate to real trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
Observations of something that did definitely happen, and evidence of those. And that's quite an easy situation to observe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it happen in that way.
And even the person who was the offender, like, they can make up for that. They can actually do things to build trust back and
Yes.
try to, regain their communication or their the trustworthiness with the other person.
Yes, and so I also spoke about that, and this was the concept. You've got a bank of positive experience, or at least something, how big or small it is, to build on that is the basis of continuing the relationship, because
Mm-hmm.
there's some benefit there, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you mess up or you've done something wrong, and you want to salvage the relationship, which you could say is similar to trust issues, right? Is that just saying that you're sorry or that you didn't mean it isn't enough.
It's not enough.
It's blah, 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 right? So I added to that putting the truth there of what you did, why you did it, what was occurring for you, what problems you were trying to solve, communicating the truth of really what happened and really what went through your head,
Mm-hmm.
helps the other person who you have transgressed against, who you have, broken trust with. It helps them at least get understanding. Because if you say, oh no, it was actually the car drove in front and there was a dog and ate this and someone and blah, explosions and whatever it is, you're not presenting the truth. It doesn't really handle the full understanding for the other person, right? So I gave that as like a first point, is dealing with ruin or upset or problems and salvaging and recovering from that, dealt with really giving the truth of actually what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the next step is, like you just said, is making up the damage. And the damage of whatever was caused, there has to be some sort of equality and then some to make up for the damage. So, just like you said then, this is an important one for anyone that is having trust issues, right? You've done all this bad stuff, you've broken trust many, many times. What you need to do is make up the damage with actions, not just sweet words and blah, 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 but doing things that actually then, so your bad habits, your transgressions, the things you did wrong, reduce the survival of the person you're having a relationship with.
Yeah.
You then have to make up the damage, so repair the survival of that person, and more than the damage you caused, to show that you actually do want them to survive well.
Yeah.
So rather than waiting for, forgot an appointment, didn't make a phone call, forgot to do the dishes, didn't clean this, didn't pick up the blah, didn't get that, rather than letting them all build up, as soon as something happens, onto it straight away.
Yeah.
Overhandling, making up the damage, and dealing with it like that. So that would be, would you say that would be the best way to deal with trust issues if you're currently experiencing them?
Yeah, real trust issues, yes.
Real
Like,
trust issues, yes,
even-
on that.
Even in the presence of it, because I know I once had a problem with this, like dealing with making up the damage, because like I would look at the
Me too.
damage that was
Yes,
caused,
yes.
and it's like so huge, and I'm just like where do I start?
Mm.
You really have to look at, okay, what was the damage?
Yeah.
What was the damage?
Right.
Like, and even the actions that stopped because of it.
Mhm.
Okay, start doing the things that you were doing that were good because you stopped doing those things.
Mhm.
Let's start with that. Like, you start doing those things, and then you build up more on top of it. It's like, oh, she needs help with this. Oh, let me help with this. Or they need help with that. Like, I need to help them with this because, I just want to give more. Like I want to give more. And it's
a
not
good way of looking at it, yeah.
And it's from the person himself, like the offender himself. Now, if the person who has been offended is like, saying, oh, you need to make up the damage, 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 the person doesn't feel like it's coming from them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't feel like this is for me, so like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, then it clashes inside, right?
So it really has to be the person's decision to, I'm going to do blah. And sometimes it doesn't look very big, but for that person, that stride forward is like really big and impactful for them.
Yeah.
And it snowballs. It just snowballs.
Totally. Before I started reading on Hubbard and understanding or appreciating that the idea of exchange, and then if I've done something wrong, not just saying sorry, but actually making up the damage. So before I read about that, as a younger person, quite often I did something wrong and I'd say, oh, I'm really sorry, and I would really mean it, but that was all that would happen. I would just say sorry and feel really bad, and because I felt bad, I would think that that was enough. But I've come to learn that people that just say sorry and don't do anything to make up the damage or deal with it, correct themselves at least, right, are really low responsibility people. So if anyone out there is actually with someone who they have trust issues for that person, and that person keeps breaking promises and just saying sorry and not actually changing and not doing anything about it, what do you do then?
Something that I used to tell my friends and really close people to me was, if something happened multiple times and they told me sorry, at one point I would just say, look, do you plan on this happening again? And like make them confront what it is. And they stop and they're like, oh, do I plan on this happening? I was like, I really want you to take a look at this. Like really look at this situation. Do you think this is going to happen again? And they're like, well, I don't want it to happen again. Okay, but will it happen again? Like let's say in the next month. Not for the rest of time, because it may happen again 6 years from now. But in the next month, do you think this is going to happen? No, I don't want it to happen. Okay, good. Then I could take that. I can thank you for telling me that you're sorry, because I don't want you to say, I'm sorry, and then tomorrow, you're doing the same thing. It's just going to make me want to punch you in the face. Like I'm not a rug. You're not going to step on me and just start, But, make the person look at what they did. Like, okay, good. You're saying you're sorry. Great. Look at what you did. Like, let's just look at it. Because right now, there's a lot of emotion here.
Yeah.
I just want you to look at the realness of the situation so that you can think with this. Like, think about, what if this happened to you? How would you want the person to respond? Like, how would you want the person to respond?
Right, and just that is, again, in the way to happiness. Try to treat others as you would like them to treat you, and try not to do things to others that you would not like them to do to you, which is kind of a variation of the golden rule, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's in the way to happiness. Full description and everything. So, what about tough love? Is what you're saying, is that tough love, or is that kind of you just using your logic? Do you know what I mean by tough love?
I feel like I do. Expound on that just a bit, though.
Okay. So, we've got this. You're in a relationship, you love or you care for the person, and you've got all this big collection of positive experience, great things, survival was enhanced, in action, carrying out purposes and things together. And then that person does something wrong. And because you love them so much, there is a tendency of people that I have definitely observed, is that they go, oh, well, don't do it again, and there's no further kind of like giving of penalty. Because that person loves that person so much and sees them suffering for something that they did wrong, and doesn't want to then make them feel worse or make them feel bad for having done something wrong. Give you an example. So let's say I loan you something and you break it. And I loan it to you because I trust you, because maybe you're in the family or you're a very close friend, and we don't set any terms or any arrangement before you borrowing the thing from me.
Yeah.
And then the thing that you use ends up breaking. And you come to me and you say, oh, listen, I'm really sorry. I crashed this, or this broke off while I was using it. And then I go, oh, okay, what happened? And then, oh, yeah, it's really horrible. Are you okay? Are you fine? And you're like obviously upset or shaken by it. And then I go, all right, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But really deep inside, I'm pissed off, right?
Yeah.
But because I love you or care for you so much, and I really value your relationship with me, there's a lot of positive survival points to it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say anything more because I'm afraid of upsetting you and threatening that positive relationship.
That's more harmful than it is helpful.
And so then tough love is then saying, boy, you broke my thing. You said you were going to use it. I trusted you with it. What are you going to do about it? Oh, well, and it's like, I trust you. You're a good, trustworthy person. You need to fix this because you can't go doing this to anyone else.
Yeah. I feel like
that's the tough love. I
feel like that's one spectrum, and then that's the other spectrum. And it's like there's like this point in the middle,
right,
where it's like let's meet here,
right?
Because first, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I broke something," okay, great. You just told me that you did it. Because somebody could be too afraid to say, "Oh man, I can't even say that I broke this." Like I have to just say, "Hey, I'm gonna give it back to you in 2 more weeks."
Yeah.
I have to use it some more for whatever.
Wait until you're not around and put it in your room, and then when you come and say, "Hey, dude, this thing is broke, so I don't know what's happening."
Yeah, like it was fine when I left it inside your house.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But coming to the person that they're coming to you and saying, "Hey, hey, I'm really sorry, I broke this, but I really want to get another. Like I got a new one for you." Because I broke yours, but I want to get this for you. But if they can't get it, they say, hey, I really want to, go in installments so that I could pay this back. Try to get the other person to come up with solutions to it. Because, it's not my problem. Like, if you broke it, it was like, hey, thank you for letting me know. How can you fix this? Like, how can you resolve this? And the person starts thinking, oh, shit, how can I resolve this? Excuse my language. Like, how can I resolve this? And then they start thinking like, wow, I actually can do something about this. Right. Like you put the ball in their court.
Yes, I'd basically say that's what the tough love thing is. Gotcha. It's then saying to the person, good, you're not getting away with saying sorry for this.
Yeah.
It's not action. Yeah, it's not just a sorry, and because I love you so much, that's why I'm not going to let you say sorry. You have to make up the damage and you're going to do something about it. What can you do? You think about what it is.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Because it's not really you making up the damage if I tell you what to do.
Right.
I need you to buy me another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like growing up, I had some friends, and if they didn't like their toy, they got a skateboard or something or whatever, and they didn't like it, they wanted something else, they would break it. They would break it and just smash the thing, and then say, "Mom, I don't have a toy anymore. I need to get a new one. You need to buy me the He-Man that has the special Stinkor capabilities."
That's a tough cookie. sorry for that, buddy.
Yeah, well, right. But if the parent doesn't want the kid to go without and doesn't really know how to, and I'm going to say discipline, right? Doesn't know how to teach the child that their things are theirs and they're given to them. They're yours. If you break them, then that's your thing you broke. You didn't break something that I had. It's your thing that you broke. And I don't have a replacement for that. So it's your thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by tough love, is that some parents can't put that tough love on their kids. I'll give you another example of tough love, right? And this is a little a mental conundrum or mental problem that I've often given to people to try and teach a thing. So this is an idea I have, right? So you have a child, and the child is studying for an exam, for a test. And they come to you the night before the test and they say, "Dad, I haven't studied for this. I need your help to cram. I need to, learn all these different tables and numbers and things for the test tomorrow." So you've got two choices. You could help the kid cram, or you could say, "You got to prepare for these things. You've got to do that. That's what we talked about before. So I can't help you in an emergency like this. You're going to have to learn that in the future you need to study." So if the outcome is that the child fails, right, the child learns the message, I need to study and put in the work, right? if you help the child and the child passes,
He's going to continue to.
what do they learn? They learn that that's how I can get by. Hey, I just studied the night before and my parents will help me and I'll get by. Whereas the whole point is, I think that returning to someone the ability to conduct their own life under their own control is, and L. Ron Hubbard terms that self-determinism. I think helping someone develop that in themselves is one of the greatest things you can do. And therefore, anyone breaks trust, you want them to be self-determined and able to trust themselves and able to be trusted by other people. Is it throwing it over back to them and then saying, right, you're in a problem, you have this test and you didn't study, or you took the thing from me and it broke, or I trusted you to go and pick up something for me and you didn't do it, you forgot. Throwing it back to that person so that they correct themselves is basically the correct way to get the person to be more in control of their lives, so that they're more self-determined, and they become more trustworthy because they can control their life.
Yeah.
Okay, so we looked at all the different ways that people can end up not being trusted. Anything else you wanted to add to that you've seen about how the mechanics of how people break trust or make up for it, things like that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I know there are a lot of times where someone may not know, because trust is very funny, because you can say that you trust someone, but you never know if you trust someone unless it's proven that, oh wow, I actually do trust this person. And even for self-trust, like you can say, I trust myself, or I won't do this in this situation, or I won't do this in this situation, and then you get put in the hot seat. The situation is on, and you're thinking about doing the thing you said you wouldn't do, and it's like, it's just like, okay, like, wait, time out. This is me. I don't want to do that. That's not what I stand for. That's not my purpose. I'm not going to do it. And it's really a really big integrity point. Standing up for what you know is right and know is true.
Yeah, integrity.
Man, but that's it's funny, because once you see that you can really trust someone, and I feel like this more so proves itself in really big situations, because I know I have a really good friend, and me and him went to a party one time after we graduated high school, and there was some violence that happened at the party, and most people ran to their cars and just like drove off. I was like searching for him, like, yo, like, where are you? I'm like blowing up his phone. He calling me. We calling each other at the same time. Like, where are you? And he was inside the building. I was outside the building. So I'm like, yo, like, come outside. And he's like, I can't come outside. Like, it's happening in here.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm waiting for you. So like, I'm like running around, because stuff was also happening outside. I'm running around, and I like slide behind the car. And he called me, he's like, yo, I'm at the back. And I was like, hey, I'm finna come get you. So I jump in the car, drive to the back, where some stuff almost happened to me, like in the process of doing that. So I run to the back.
Anyway, that's another story. Go ahead. You're driving around the back.
And like, he jumps in the car, my cousin jumps in the car, who I didn't even know she was there. And two of her friends jump in the car and was like, can you take us to the gas station? Like, far away from here. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So we drive off. And like, he was like, man, I'm so glad you didn't leave me. I was like, bro, like, I would never leave you in a situation like that.
Okay.
Like, I got you. Like, it don't matter what's happening.
There you
go. Like, if anybody's got you, I got you.
So that's a high level of integrity, because the pressure was on, and you could have just hightailed it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And anyway, we could get into quite a lot of concepts from there, but something you touched on then, I thought allows us to branch into this imagined trust thing the whole way, right? Imagined trust issues, and you kind of said, how do you know who to trust? How do you know what someone is going to do? And you talked about those little things. And I want to tell you a story that a police officer told me, right? Is that police have known for a long period of time that if there's a criminal who's doing something big, guilty of some sort of big crime, he'll think nothing of walking across the road when there's a red traffic light. Because it's nothing. He just killed someone, walking across the road when there's a red traffic light is like nothing. If he is into some sort of crime, then speeding won't be a problem for him.
Yeah.
Or the stopping at a stop sign, okay, which is it was in relation to the context in Australia. I didn't stop at a stop sign, right? And I was told, police will pick you up for not doing that. Because if you so easily and so carefree don't abide by the small rules, then what else are you doing? Right? So what you said before, it's a similar thing. How can you know who to trust?
Yeah.
And like in The Way to Happiness goes over a lot more detail in this concept, but if you can't get the little things right, and you have someone in your life, so maybe it's yourself, right? But now we're looking at someone else. If you have someone else in your life that can't get the little things right, and they consistently and repeatedly and without concern make these errors or infringe upon your trust, break your trust, and they come, oh no, I totally forgot. No, sorry about that. And they're very flippant about dismissing with no responsibility. And they would admit to these sort of things. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Oh, silly me. I know you needed to submit that application by Friday, but I didn't take it to the post office. Something that's serious, but they just kind of brush it off as not serious. Then the first thing, and this is the lesson I kind of learned, which is going over in The Way to Happiness a little bit, is like, what else is that person doing?
It's a really interesting turn on. I've never looked at it like that.
Right.
It's very interesting. Because you would actually you could find it. Like, you would be able to just observe this person for a day. You're like, wow. This person is very irresponsible.
There you go. And that is that subject of responsibility or ethics or personal ethics is what it's an indicator of, I think. Have you come across anyone like that stands out? Anyone in your past where they ended up doing something really bad, but the indicators were there prior to, that you didn't really pay attention to until the big thing happened? And when the big thing happened, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That guy did that guy did that guy did that. And it all makes sense that he did those little things because he ended up doing this big thing.
Yeah.
What happened? You thought of something?
Yeah. There was this guy who, I wouldn't say me and him were friends, but his girlfriend was my best friend.
Okay.
One of my best friends.
Yeah.
So, she would talk to me about him, and I'd just be like, okay, cool, I think you should talk to him about that. Because I don't like to jump into other people's relationships. It's not my thing. So, you need to talk to him about that. But I also would just ask him questions about, hey, is everything good with you and her and da-da-da. She would kind of cry, and I just want to check, are you good? And, sometimes I would see him, doing certain things, and I'm just kind of like, yo, bro, like, you good, man? Like, you straight? And there's, like, this thing called, there's a guy code. There's just certain things that you don't really do or whatever. I don't really fully go with that, because some of the stuff is very unethical. It's like, oh, you know, if you
so
know,
it's not a gentleman's code, it's a
it's a guy code. So, he was texting this other girl, and I was like, yo, like, who is the little shorty that you texting? And he was like, oh, no, it's just just a friend of mine or whatever. I was just like, all right, hey, yo, I'm just letting you know, if there's something going on, you need to tell your girl, like, for real, because like, I don't deal with that. I'm not trying to get in a relationship or anything like that. But if you don't tell her and there's something going on, and I find out that there's something going on, I'ma tell her. And he was like, no, it's cool. It ain't nothing there. And I didn't really dive into it to investigate to see, is there something? Because one, it really wasn't my situation. I had my own stuff that I was dealing with, so it's all right, cool.
But you observed that little thing.
That little thing. And then there were things that they planned that you know, she would tell me like, oh, like he bailed on me on this day, or like, you know, we used to talk on the phone all the time, and then, you know, now we really don't talk on the phone at all, or, you know, sometimes he'll talk on the phone, but he got to get off the phone really quick, and I'm like, you know, these like, boom, and then it's pointing back to this moment, and I'm just like, everything is like, and I'm sitting there like,
Right.
It's like, yo, you need to just ask him about it, you know, just ask him what's going on, ask him what's happening. And then one day, the girl that he was texting posted a picture of them two together on Facebook.
There you go.
And she saw it. And it was like,
right. L. Ron Hubbard calls those things indicators.
yeah.
Things that occur in a, let's say, a relationship or any other type of situation, things that occur that could tell you that something is happening. They don't confirm it, but it's an indicator. It indicates which direction something is going. And I have to say, before I studied The Way to Happiness and some of the other books by L. Ron Hubbard, I kind of just trusted everyone because I was a fairly trustworthy person. You know, I did make mistakes, but on the whole, like if someone said to me do something, I would go ahead and do it. I might do it, you know, a little bit later and things like that. But I trusted other people hugely. And, you know, I got done in here and I got done in there because I trusted that person, and my trust was really misplaced. I didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. So then I learned about these indicators, you know, and I read That Way to Happiness. Oh, so that's what people who want you to survive well, that's how they'll behave towards you. That's interesting, right? So then I started to notice, and I could tell you the story, right? This guy, so my girlfriend, her sister had a boyfriend, and they moved in with us because they moved from one country to ours. And when they changed country, the reason they did that is because he lost his job. So I asked the question, hey, why'd you lose your job? Oh, they accused me of stealing, you know, like it was someone else and blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. And because, you know, in my mind, trust the girlfriend's sister, trust the boyfriend of the girlfriend, because I was trusting everyone, right?
Yeah.
And then he was late on his rent one time, and I covered for him. Like, yeah, dude, you're good, you know, like, I trust you. And then his work in Ireland, he got accused again of stealing something. And then I'm starting to go, geez, you know, like, dude, people got it in for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I trust the guy.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking, I'm creating an excuse for him in my mind because it makes me feel more comfortable. So I'm not wrong, I trusted him. And I have the idea that he's a good guy because he lives in the house, right? And then another thing comes up, and another thing comes up, and another thing comes up. And the next thing, he just leaves, he blows, he goes away. And I find out that most of that stuff was true.
Wow.
Right?
That's mad, man.
So you see these things, you really have to, like, investigating and knowing what is true or not, it's a tough enough thing. When you find things are true, fine, they're. But when things are imagined and how your mind makes excuses for people and how there are indicators and you explain them away as something else, and then at the end you go, wow, all these things were indicators and that was actually what was happening. So using those indicators, you can really tell or get more information about who around you, if you have trust issues with them, who really is the sort of person to trust. You know, whether you're imagining it or not, the way to not imagine is to actually just look at the indicators, you know, find the evidence, investigate basically, and see exactly what's happening. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, the next thing I was wanting to get into is that people can mislead you on purpose. So like this guy, he was telling me, no, I didn't know, all these other people, you know, and I believed him, right? But he actually was intentionally misleading me. And there are people out there like that, who can do things wrong, and then intentionally direct you into something else, so it's like, no, I didn't do that at all, man, and they totally did. Or, no, it wasn't me, and it totally was, you know, sort of thing. How do you weed those people out?
You know, it's very interesting, because in the Scientology handbook, it goes over different emotional tones of people. When I say tones, I mean like expressions. So like anger and people who are very hostile toward other people who are very enthusiastic. You know, people fall in these, they display characteristics that fall under these categories. And normally, if you really observe someone, like you really observe them, you see that their behavior falls literally straight line along one of them. And if you really observe like this person, you know, I know this works for me. Like I can look at, okay, no, gotcha. I got you. And I know how to deal with that person at the level that they're at. Where it's like, okay, cool, you're not going to pull one over me because I see you. And now that I see you, I know how to handle, I know how to work with you.
Right. Now you said one word there I want you to clarify for us a little bit, right? You said observe. So we're talking about imagining things. I have definitely seen people put all sorts of prejudices and ideas and imaginings on a person that they have just met or a person that they know for some period of time because they have an imagined idea or concept of that person. And you use the word observe. Clarify a little bit as far as like assuming or thinking or presuming, like which is to make up your mind about something. What's the difference between that and observing?
It's very funny because if you observe something, you see what is there as it is. I see you. You have on a blue shirt. You're nodding your head right now, which makes me think that you're listening. But the only way that I would really know if you're listening is if you were able to communicate back to me on what it is I'm talking about.
Right, you said I had a blue shirt and I'm nodding, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So me really looking at what is there, not adding any of my own personal feelings, emotions, past experiences that have happened to me, none of this is messing with what I see right now. I see you.
Right.
If I see someone at a store, take something off a shelf, put it in their pocket, I just saw someone steal something. That's exactly what I saw. You took something off a shelf, put it in your pocket. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. No, hey, why'd you just put that inside your pocket? You observed that person just take something off a shelf and put it inside his pocket.
Right.
Now, let's say you see someone walk out of a store and let's say they don't have a receipt and they don't have bags, they just have lots of things and they're walking very fast and kind of like looking, you know, you could assume this person just stole something out of the store.
Right.
But the person could just be in a rush, you know? And let's say you try to confront the person on, hey, like you didn't just pay for the stuff, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, look at my phone. Like my phone has the payment that I just made inside the store.
There you go.
Timestamp and all. You know, but you observing what's actually there.
Right.
It's like, hey, I just see, if for girls, for instance, I see him on the phone, you know, curled over all the time, and then, you know, he's texting. And then whenever I look, he kind of turns his phone off, and he kind of like leans to the side and says, hey, how you doing?
So, as an example, I observe that you're in a Santa suit. Right? That would be a correct observation because I can see it.
Yes.
But me having the idea, you must feel like some milk and cookies. Because you're wearing a Santa suit, there's no evidence in the physical universe that that actually is the case, and that comes really from just my mind. So the observation is not that you feel like milk and cookies, it's actually that you're just sitting there in a Santa suit. Got it. Okay.
I could wear this in March.
Right. You're not feeling in the Christmassy spirit at all. Okay, so in terms of trust and relationships then, so you were mentioning about this emotional scale, and I have talked about it on the webinar before. Hubbard discovered that there is a scale going from like a bottom to a top, and these different emotions, probably from a negative kind of emotion through to neutral and then to kind of positive emotions, right? The positive emotions being more equating to survival, and the negative ones, you know, perhaps equating to, you know, succumbing, not surviving, right? So you talked about observing someone at these different levels of this emotional scale. And if you pick someone at a certain level, when I say pick, you observe someone at a certain level. So explain me a little bit more about that. So if I am observing someone, are there different things that people say or do at different emotional levels? Like how do I know?
Oh yeah, like let's say you have somebody who normally the only thing they bring to you is really bad news. Like it seems like every time this person talks to you, it's a problem that they have or somebody else has. it's even worse if it's a problem that somebody else has. Like, okay, I'm bringing you gossip.
Yes.
That's a really big indicator. It's like, whoop, okay, yeah, take that point, got you. And then, you know, they continually just bring me gossip. And I'm just like, hey, you know, I don't like that. Like, I don't want. I understand something that you're very interested in. I don't want it though. So thank you for letting me know.
So that would be an observation of someone at a certain emotional level.
Yeah, and it's lower than one would want.
Definitely not positive, definitely not survival, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah.
And then you have the state of their possessions. You really observe someone's possessions that they have. Like, you can look at the phone, the car, the state of their room, office, desk, like anything. Does it look like one giant explosion just happened? Or are things pretty neat, pretty organized? Or are they organized?
Yes.
Are things where they know that they are? You know, all of these points fall on a certain area, and the state of someone's possessions is a very good indicator on whether or not that person can be trusted. Because can you trust yourself with your own things?
Yes. Okay, good. So just to let everyone know is that this scale and these different categories, whether it to do with the state of their possessions, whether it to be do with the emotion they expressed, how they speak to people, all those different categories are given on a certain chart. And that chart is called the Hubbard chart of human evaluation.
Yeah.
And it does appear in a number of different books, right? So by observation and knowing that chart and being able to observe someone, their possessions, etc., things like that, you can actually get a very good idea of whether or not you should trust that person.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the funny thing about that is that even in the way to happiness, under the precept, be competent, there's like a subdivision of the precept. It goes over 4 different very important things on what it takes to be competent, like really being competent. And look is one of them. Just look.
Okay.
Like the ability to really stand back, like take three steps back and just look at a situation that could be totally confusing you. Just 3 steps back and you look at the situation. You look without a cloud of justice.
Right, without presuming or thinking or imagining things that are there that are not there, right.
You just look at the scene. And you will find yourself, like the confusions that you once had just going, like feel like they're exploding. Like, wow, okay, I was really misled. Or I'm being misled.
Right.
And it's just that section under look will have you really looking at things very differently.
Fantastic.
Because you start to see, wow, maybe I do prejudge people when I first meet them. Like I just automatically make this person shows off characteristics like my ex-best friend that really done me over. And now, you know, I don't really trust people the way I used to. And this person reminds me of that person, so I'm not gonna, you know,
definitely
just not gonna do it.
Yeah, I've experienced that on both ends of that, I would say. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna check with Sylvia, since we are here on Zoom. I'm just gonna check if there's any other questions or comments that are coming in. I'm just typing into the Zoom chat here, and good. We'll see if we get anything back. So that whole point, so when we're coming to trust issues, I think what you just said is a fantastic way to frame the advice to anyone, is go from that starting point of look or observe. What is really there? What really did happen? And having that basis of reality and knowing what actually happened, is it a problem with trust or is it something you're imagining? You know, the positive experience and the negative experience. Is that real negative experience or are you imagining it? So that principle of look or observing is very, very important. Then you spoke about like these different emotional levels. So I offered at the beginning the way to happiness. So that book there containing all the different precepts of if someone following those precepts will live a happy life, and if they get others to follow those precepts around them, they would definitely be living a happier life. So in the same way, using that book with all the details it gives on each of the different precepts, just by looking and observing, pick someone, look at the precepts. Does that person do these things? Look at another person. Does that person do these things? Just by really looking, but having the information from that book, that would really set someone up in a good way to know whether or not they should trust someone, to know how they should perhaps involve themselves with another person, and also help them evaluate themselves in terms of, what am I doing that's not, per the way to happiness? Maybe it's the way to, degradation, right?
The way to destruction.
The way to destruction, right? So that book, I think, serves as a very good starting point for anyone wanting to learn for themselves. Well, how do I predict if someone is trustworthy or not?
Yeah.
Super. So there are a lot of other things we could definitely talk about with trust.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I have said this before, but one of the reasons why I think the writings of L. Ron Hubbard and everything in Scientology is just so fantastic, and you might find this too if you read yourself, is it is all, let's say, codified, and I've used that word before, is it's put in a system, it's put in a relatable body of knowledge. In other words, this whole subject of trust, right? You spoke about trusting yourself. Well, how does that have to do with motivation, which we did a series on before?
Yeah.
And how does trusting yourself or trusting other people have to do with knowledge or study? You have to learn something. Maybe you don't know the different activities or things. And then, so trusting someone and making a goal or a plan with them, how do you make a plan? How does that relate to, how do you communicate to them? So all of these different subjects within Scientology, they have been related to each other. What is the relationship between motivation and trust? What is the relationship between communication and planning? So this body of knowledge of Scientology, having all these, codified, definitely related parts or aspects, doesn't have you getting confused at all.
No.
Because it's like, okay, so what is the relationship of trust to communication?
If I can't trust you, I'm going to find it very hard for me to communicate with you.
There you go.
Because if you take in the ARC triangle,
yes, we've talked about that.
Reality is there.
Yes.
My reality is that I can't trust you. Therefore, I will find it very hard to find things that I can communicate with you.
Yeah.
And my affinity for you is not going to be very high. So, just striking at the point of reality with the person. Okay, great. If you want to improve that relationship with that person, you know that they don't trust you. Okay, repair the damage and do things that will allow for them to trust you again and demonstrate that you can actually be trusted. Start keeping your word once you give it, which is also inside the way to happiness.
Helping them with their survival as part of the make up the damage, which will make them like you more. Like if I help you with your survival and you do better, are you going to like me more?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like you a lot.
Right.
So you targeting the reality will improve the affinity, which will also increase the communication. Right. Like, it's a direct correlation.
Totally.
It's very, very fascinating. Like, you can take it in, especially the ARC.
Right.
It's life.
Yes.
You can take ARC and just put it anywhere.
That's right. Put it in anything. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to end off there. I said there's no questions that came through on the other platforms. If any of you want to leave feedback or anything at all, it'd be great to hear from you. We're making these as a webinar to just give you an opportunity so that you can engage, so that you can share. You can go to Mind the CRAIC Instagram page. You can leave comments. You can get in touch with us any way you want. But if you would like to pick up a copy of The Way to Happiness yourself, then very shortly there should appear a link in the comment section or a link in the Zoom window for you to get a hold of that book so you can read over it, get the information, look, observe yourself, those around you, and see what things you can put in or what things you need to change in your relationships so that you are handling those trust issues. So before we are good, so the link is already in there. Before we go and end off, anything else you wanted to say?
Man, it's just, trust is the cornerstone of all relationships. Like, it's literally the building block of any relationship. So if you cannot be trusted, your relationships with other people are not going to be very good. If you can be trusted, then you're going to see that you have really good relationships with numerous people, which is a really amazing thing. And there are things that someone will be able to do, that you would be able to do about trust, whether or not you can be trusted or whether or not you can't be trusted. So, you studying and applying will allow for you to do that.
Perfect. Well said. Thank you very much. Hope you join me again very soon. For everyone watching, go ahead and get in touch with us. Please interact. We look forward to seeing you next time. Sinead for today.